In this section, you'll learn about the Second Industrial Revolution and the changes it brought to many European countries. You'll also learn how the desire to improve working and living conditions led many industrial workers to form political parties and unions based on the theories of Karl Marx. Westerners in the late 1800s worshipped progress. The main reason for their belief in progress was the material growth created by what is called the Second Industrial Revolution. The First Industrial Revolution changed the production of textiles, iron, and coal. In the Second Industrial Revolution, new industries arose in steel, chemicals, electricity, and petroleum. The first major change in industry between 1870 and 1914 was the substitution of steel for iron. New methods of shaping steel made it useful in the building of lighter, smaller, and faster machines and engines. It was also used to make railways, ships, and weapons. Electricity was a major form of new energy. It could be easily converted into other forms of energy, such as heat, light, and motion. In the 1870s, the first practical generators of electrical current was developed. The use of electricity led to a series of inventions. The light bulb was created by Thomas Edison in the United States and Joseph Swan in Great Britain. Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone in 1876, and Guglielmo Marconi sent the first radio waves across the Atlantic in 1901. Electricity also formed factories. Conveyor belts, cranes, and machines could all be powered by electricity. With electric lights, factories could remain open 24 hours a day. The development of internal combustion engine revolutionized transportation. This engine was powered by oil and gasoline. It made ocean liners, airplanes, and automobiles possible. In 1903, Orville and Wilbur Wright made the first flight in a fixed-wing plane at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Industrial production grew as sales of manufactured goods increased. Europeans could afford to buy more goods for several reasons. Wages for workers increased after 1870. Prices for manufactured goods were lower because of lower transportation costs. In the cities, the first department stores began to sell new products such as clocks, bicycles, electric lights, and typewriters. Not all nations benefited from the Second Industrial Revolution. By 1900, Europe was divided into two economic zones. Great Britain, Belgium, France, the Netherlands, Germany, the western part of Austro-Hungarian Empire, and northern Italy made up an advanced industrial zone. These nations had a high standard of living and decent transportation systems. Another part of Europe was still primarily agricultural. This was the part of the south and east. It was made up of southern Italy, most of Austria-Hungary, Spain, Portugal, the Balkan kingdoms, and Russia. These countries provided food and raw materials for the industrial countries. The Second Industrial Revolution and the growth of transportation by steamship and railroad led to a true world economy. By 1800, Europeans were receiving beef and wool from Argentina and Australia, coffee from Brazil, iron ore from Algeria, and sugar from Java. Foreign countries also provided markets for the manufactured goods of Europe. With its capital, industry, and military might, Europe dominated the world economy by the beginning of the 20th century. The desire to improve their working and living conditions led many industrial workers to form socialist political parties and trade unions. These organizations emerged after 1870, but the theory on which they were based had been developed earlier by Karl Marx. In 1848, Marx and Friedrich Engels published the Communist Manifesto, which they had written together. They were shocked by the horrible conditions in factories. They blamed the system of industrial capitalism for these conditions. They proposed a new social system. One form of Marxist socialism was eventually called communism. Marx believed that all of world history was a history of class struggles. One group of people, the oppressors, owned the means of production, land, raw materials, money, and so forth. This gave them the power to control government and society. The other group, the oppressed, depended on the owners of the means of production. Marx believed that industrialized societies were splitting up into two great classes: The bourgeoisie, or middle class, were the oppressors. The proletariat, or working class, were the oppressed. Marx predicted that the struggle between the two groups would finally lead to an open revolution where the proletariat would violently overthrow the bourgeoisie. After their victory, the proletariat would form a dictatorship, or government in which a person or group had absolute power, to organize the means of production. Marx believed that the final revolution would ultimately produce a classless society. In time, working class leaders formed socialist parties based on Marx ideas. Most important was the German Social Democrat Party, SPT. Once in Parliament, SPT delegates worked to pass laws that would improve conditions for the working class. After the 1912 elections, it became the largest single party in Germany. Socialist parties also emerged in other European countries. In 1889, leaders of the various socialist parties joined together and formed the Second International. This was an association of national socialist groups that would fight against capitalism worldwide. Marxist parties were divided over their goals. Pure Marxists wanted to overthrow capitalism by violent revolution. Other Marxists, called revisionists, disagreed. Revisionists believed that workers must continue to organize in mass political parties and even work with other parties to gain reforms. Trade unions were another socialist force working for change. In Great Britain, unions won the right to strike in the 1870s. A strike is a work stoppage called by members of a union to pressure an employee into meeting their demands. Workers in factories organized into trade unions so they could use strikes to achieve reforms. By 1914, trade unions in Europe had made considerable progress in bettering the lives and working conditions of the working classes.